change judge hearing his case citing bias.
Seven-member committee to investigate mass failure of teachers who wrote the 2023 licensure examination.
Minority in Parliament to oppose government's deal with Torrentco to operate toll.
And bodies of 87 people allegedly killed by paramilitary forces in Sudan found in a massive grave as regional summit hosted by Egypt to help solve the crisis opens.
It's a pleasure to come your way again with News Hour. My name is Sarah Furi.
And I am Samuela Quarter, live on GBC News and on GTV. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Jonathan is here to translate the news into sign language. Good evening.
In our first story, the Minister for Transport, Mr. Kweku Furiesiama, says the new Tamale International Airport Terminal to be operational by the end of this month. Answering questions on the floor of Parliament on Thursday, the minister explained that all the preparatory works on the new terminal have been completed.
When operationalized, the much talked about Tamale International Airport will allow air passengers in the northern part of the country to fly out of the country directly from Tamale without having to come to Kotoka International Airport in Accra. We'll bring you details of that later in the bulletin. Now, lawyers for businessman Mr. Richard Jakpa, one of three accused persons in the case between the Republic and Minority Leader of Parliament, Mr. Kaisel Atuforsen, and two others, have petitioned the Chief Justice to remove Justice Efia-Sewa Asare-Botry from the case on grounds of bias. Justice Asare-Botry ruled for the adjournment of the case until the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu decides on the petition. Before noon on Thursday, July 13, 2023, when the case was called for hearing, the presiding judge, Justice Efia-Sewa Asare-Botry, informed the court of the petition by businessman Mr. Richard Jakpa. The businessman for Thursday afternoon sitting was for lawyers for Dr. Kaisel Atuforsen, Minority Leader in Parliament, to move an application they filed seeking the judge to rescue herself from the case, and another application requesting for the lawmaker's passport from the court. The court, however, acknowledging the said petition from Mr. Jakpa, said that practice demands that the trial is put on hold until the petition is attended to by the Chief Justice and consequently given the way forward in the trial. Justice Efia-Sewa Asare-Botry subsequently adjourned the matter to July 27, by which time the Chief Justice, Justice Gertrude Tokonu, may have given her opinion on the matter. In a previous hearing, the court reprimanded Richard Jakpa, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Big C Trading LLC, for gross misconduct towards the court during a hearing. Dr. Atuforsen is in court on charges of causing financial loss of 2.37 million euros to the state in relation to the purchase of 200 ambulances between 2014 and 2016.
The Ministry of Education has tasked a 7-member committee to investigate the poor performance of teachers who wrote the 2023 licensure exams. In an engagement with stakeholders in Accra, the Sector Minister, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, said the committee will, among other things, ensure that the preparation materials are made available to candidates who will take the examinations.
Total of 6,451 teachers failed the 2023 Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination conducted in May 2023. The number was out of the 7,728 teachers who participated in the resit exams from both the colleges of education and universities. Thus, only 1,277 passed. The assessment in numeracy, literacy, and professional knowledge is to enable qualified students to get a professional license while attracting young graduates with the required professional knowledge and skills to teach. Speaking in Accra on measures being put in place to reverse the trend, the Education Minister, Dr. Yaoseh Adichum, said that 7-member committee will look at the extent to which the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination is aligned with the National Teacher Standards and other supporting policies or framework, such as the pre-tertiary curriculum.
The ministry, together with its agencies, in this particular instance, the National Teaching Council, has set up a process to ensure that we do our possible best to facilitate the process, to ensure that there's alignment between the preparatory institutions, in this case the universities and the colleges of education, and also the NTC, to ensure there's curricular alignment, there's assessment alignment, and also we provide prep materials.
The Registrar of the National Teaching Council, Dr. Christian Adaipoku, said the reform provides 3 chances for teachers who fail the exam to redeem themselves.
NTC is supposed to regulate the teacher education institutions, and so NTC will go more into the teacher education institutions to ensure that they comply to the requirements of the National Teacher Education Curriculum Framework and other frameworks that guide teacher education in the country. The NTC is to ensure that there are enough reading materials. We have been mandated, directed by the ministry, to ensure that we support the content developers to prepare more reading materials for candidates so that they can also prepare well for the examination.
The NTC is mandated by Section 9 of the Education Act 2008, Act 778, to improve the professional standing and status of teachers, licensed and registered teachers in Ghana. The first ever teacher licensure examination was written His love for the camera began at an early age when his grandmother's tenant, a photographer, frequently took pictures of him. He later had conversations around the camera with him. In later life, when he had a career in camera and cinematography, he says he came to believe that the camera was not just a device to record memorable events, but a tool of innovation and magic. This earned him lots of recognition within his GBC and the outside world. He's on record to have worked with most of the presidents from the PNDC era through to the Fourth Republic as the presidential cameraman. As GBC celebrates its 88th anniversary, we applaud Mr. Chris Togbo Ago, a cameraman par excellence.
73-year-old cameraman Mr. Chris Togbo Ago recounts his life spent at GBC through pictures.
There's a presidential vehicle which they call the Beast.
The Beast, okay. With you behind the camera?
Yeah, and then this guy from TV3 appear.
Okay. Which occasion was that?
A June 4th event.
He shares with GBC News some of the high-profile events he covered, especially his close encounter with the former president, Mr. Jerry John Rawlings.
So he sent that I should be called to him. And then when I went over, he said he had a problem with his trousers. It has been ripped open in the tie, so I should make sure I don't shoot anything below.
So he says,
just make sure you cover me, don't go down. If there's anything down. You are in trouble.
Mr. Chris Togbo Ago also shared with GBC News principles that guided him to the top.
God has been so gracious because there were challenging times. You go on location, you set up, and maybe the function is supposed to start at a certain time. You will wait, they will tell you, no, it has been changed, shifted to another time for 1 or 2 reasons, and you have to be there. So, which means your closing time will vary, and you know you left home, maybe you are done, hoping to get home. Yeah. Those are things which, certain times, it's a bit of a border, and well, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's the job.
It's the job, but the satisfaction at that time was there.
Okay.
You see, and because there were few, or GBC was the only station. The challenges, even if it comes, we manage to work around it.
Ghana today has a multiplicity of media and is currently being described as one of the freest media spaces in the world. However, according to Mr. Christopher Ago, practitioners are not taking advantage of the moment.
We've given so much room for people to open stations, and it's like we don't monitor what they churn out.
The content.
Yes, the program content. The presenter gets in, sits behind a microphone, and then starts talking, say anything he or she likes, play any kind of music. In those days, when you bring any music, you go to the gramophone library, it's vetted, and if they found that the lyrics are not so good, they'll just write NTBB, not to be broadcast.
Okay.
And it is strict. But now people just walk in, give it to a DJ or whoever is there, and the next one is on air. Before you realize the harm is done already.
He thanked GBC for acknowledging his efforts as part of its 88th anniversary celebration. Gifty AJ, GBC News, Accra.
It's Market Day today in Bolgatanga, and animal traders in the Upper East region are back to active business. This follows the lifting of a ban on the movement of ruminants and donkeys, slaughtering, sale and consumption of meat and meat products due to an outbreak of anthrax. The traders say they will abide by the directives issued by the statement by the ministry. They have also commended the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and government for the swift intervention in containing anthrax in the area. Our correspondent Peter Agrengre visited the livestock market in Bolgatanga and has more in this report.
When GBC News' team visited the livestock market, the traders were back transacting their usual business. Goats, cattle and sheep were being brought to the market to either sell or transport to other towns or regions. According to the traders, the lifting of the ban may not have come at a better time.
Before we will start the business as fresh as it was, it has to get to a month. So that we'll be educating them small, so that maybe within from now up to next month, I hope it will be okay.
Because of the lockdown, people they still have the fears to buy the animals. They have fears to buy the animals. So still, when they lifted the market, this is our first market. So we're still on it. So the market is not moving.
The traders also cautioned suppliers of livestock not to send sick animals to the market.
When we also see an animal which is affected, we have to call the vet to come and bury it. When we also see an animal which is affected with a side disease, at least we have to invite the vet to come and take it.
We don't want someone to bring the animals that is sick inside the market. We don't want anybody to bring the animals that is not well, is not fit. We don't allow people to do that for this market. We are committee, we are ready to do that one for here.
The ban on the movement of ruminants and donkeys, slaughtering, sale and consumption of meat and meat products became necessary due to an outbreak of anthrax that claimed one life and several animals. A mass vaccination was carried out across the 50 municipal and district assemblies to contain the outbreak. Peter Agrengre reporting.
We now go back to our very first story, where the Minister for Transport, Mr. Kweku Furisiama, says the new Tamale International Airport terminal will be operational by the end of this month. Answering questions in Parliament on Thursday, the minister explained that all the preparatory works on the new terminal have been completed. When operationalized, the MAC talked about Tamale International Airport will allow air passengers in the northern part of the country to fly out of the country directly from Tamale without having to come to Kotoka International Airport in Accra.
Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Transport what the expected completion and operationalizational date of the Tamale International Airport.
The Tamale Airport Phase 2 was substantially completed in August 2022. Subsequently, operational readiness and transfer program commenced in August 2022 to ensure that potential risks involved in the transition process from construction to operational phase were carefully managed in order to avoid poor startup performance that can negatively impact the image of the country. Mr. Speaker, originally the terminal was scheduled to go live in December 2022 to simulate operations and effective integration of airport systems. The go live had to be postponed to pave way for completion of all requisite training, site acceptance tests, and systems integration. Mr. Speaker, I wish to inform this August House that having completed all these, the go live for operationalization of the new terminal building is scheduled for 31st July 2023.
I would like to find out if it is the same day that passengers can start using that new modern terminal, or there is a different date set aside for that purpose.
We've done all the testing in relation to our systems, linking it to our carrier system that they put in place to make sure that we are ready to go. So by all circumstances, 31st July this year, we are pretty sure that we will open up the terminal to the general public.
The World Bank Managing Director for Operations, Ms. Anna Biede, is on a working visit to the World Bank's finance project in Ghana. She first stopped at the new Bawe Municipal Assembly Basic 1 School, which is one of the beneficiaries of the Accountability and Learning Outcomes Project, GALLOP. This is her first visit to Ghana since her appointment. She undertook this duty in the company of the World Bank's Vice President for Western and Central Africa, Mr. Usman Jigana.
International Development Association, IDA, founded Ghana Accountability and Learning Outcome Project, GALLOP, has supported 7 out of 28 basic schools in the Wejagbawe municipality. The project gives financial assistance to 10,500 schools nationally. The first stop for Madame Anna Biede and her delegation was New Bawe Municipal Assembly Basic 1 School, a beneficiary of the Ghana Accountability and Learning Outcomes Project, GALLOP. Through the GALLOP project, the school performed creditably in the Basic Education Certificate Examination (BCE), with 99% of candidates qualifying to enter senior secondary school in 2022. The Basic 2 and 3 students exhibited their reading prowess.
Go to buy food now. We already spent money on food. After that day, teacher gave very good advice. If you feel you are in danger, shout for help or run to people you trust. You can call police on 199.
A grade 1 teacher, Madame Maria Fuseni, shared her experiences with the GALLOP project.
Through this project, about 99.5% of our learners are able to read and understand because of how our classrooms are and how we deliver. The learners are always happy to be in school.
The Deputy Minister for Education, Reverend John Intim Fodjo, lauded the World Bank for the initiative.
We are very grateful to the World Bank for the great support they've given us in transforming these over 10,000 least performing schools in our system. Indeed, by the intervention, we've been able to address learning poverty, and with the outcome of the national standardized test we conducted across the country in 2021 and 2022, we see great significant improvements in the reading abilities of our learners, particularly schools that are beneficiaries to the GALLOP project.
For operations, Madame Anna Biede reiterated the importance of human capital to development.
The Ministry of Education is paying attention to this. Always the ratio of students to teacher, keeping it within reasonable numbers so that the teacher has time for all the students. But I have to say I saw a strong engagement and very good reading skills and comprehension skills among the students. So
the GALLOP aims to improve the quality of education in low-performance basic education schools and strengthen education sector equality and accountability in Ghana.
At the opening of the Climate Scientists meeting in Accra, the call was for a deeper collaboration among stakeholders for smart strategies to help mitigate the effect of climate change on the continent. The continental meeting will also review the annual State of Climate Report for Africa.
The State of the Climate Report in Africa provides details of extreme weather and climate change impacts in the entire region. It gives information on climate indicators, including temperatures, ocean heat and acidification, sea level rise and glaciers, as well as on extreme events like tropical cyclones, heat waves, droughts, heavy precipitation and cold waves. The report also highlights the impact of the changing climate on agriculture and food security, migration and displacement, socio-economic development, the environment and ecosystem services. Climate scientists strongly believe reviewing the annual State of Climate Report will help them get the appropriate impetus to address climate change in sub-Saharan Africa.
The intention of this report is to provide information on climate to the policymakers and also to those who use this information in discussing or negotiating these situations in Africa to the wider world, particularly the Africa Group of Negotiators.
The Director General of the Ghana Meteorological Agency, Mr. Eric Isuman, assured that the agency is on the beat to improve on climate services.
We are beginning to get more automatic equipment in the system that reduces the human errors in terms of collecting the data and also give us timely data to be analyzed, because self-recording and then automatically transmitted. And so if you pull all these things together with the trained meteorologists that we have, it is helping us to improve our forecast and accuracy level.
Mr. Isaac Amon is the board chair for the Ghana Meteorological Agency.
Whilst we are suffering from tidal waves, our other African neighboring countries who are in the Sahel regions are experiencing drought, which is increasing the acreage of the desertification. I hope and believe that by the end of this 3-day workshop, these experts will share knowledge, share experience, and devise strategies that will go to inure the benefit of the African continent and the countries therein.
The global climate outlook is rather gloomy and even more urgent for the African continent. Recommendations made at the end of the workshop will be presented to President Akufo-Addo through the sector ministry for immediate action to be taken.
Inmates at the various prisons across the country will now be empowered to rebuild their lives, support their families, and contribute positively to their communities when they are released from prison. This will be made possible under the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Training Program for the prisons launched in Accra on Wednesday. After the training, the inmates will be given starter packs to set them up on the path of self-sustaining and income-generating enterprise.
Analysts believe the prisons should not only be institutions for punishment, but also space for rehabilitation and redemption. Empowering inmates with vocational skills and entrepreneurial knowledge will foster their reintegration into society as productive citizens. The National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program also comes with starter packs for inmates. Similarly, inmates who have longer prison sentences will also be given similar packages to enable them ply their skills in prison, generate income for themselves as well as the prison service. Beneficiaries will be taken through light manufacturing activities including soap and detergents making, packaging of grain and cereals, and the production of local non-alcoholic drinks, among others.
There's also the intention to rope officers into the training of trainers program to facilitate the replication of the training in other prison establishments.
The Deputy Finance Minister in charge of wealth creation, Dr. John Kuma, said the program will unlock their potential to become self-reliant and contribute to the development of the nation. He called on business leaders and organizations to collaborate with the prisons to help sustain the program. The CEO of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Training Program, Mr. Kofi Ansah, said NEP will collaborate with the Ghana Standards Authority and the Food and Drugs Authority to approve the products for the market and reduce imports of certain goods. The Minister for the Interior, Mr. Ambrose Derry, said lack of rehabilitation programs in addressing the plight of inmates calls for concern among policymakers and other interest groups.
One of the challenges we have is capital for small-scale businesses in this country. Now, under the program that government has put in place, startups are going to be there. It is my fervent hope that all stakeholders would work hard to ensure success of this program and that all the goals and objectives would be met.
Over 800 inmates from 5 prisons will be initially enrolled onto the program.
It's still News are live on GBC News and on GT. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. The Nsiaim Junior High School, built more than 30 years ago, is currently nothing like its former self. The school has never been renovated since it was established. Part of the roof is ripped off, and deep cracks in the building cause the classrooms to flood whenever it rains. To the students, the school structure is a death trap.
There is a saying in West Africa that every time an elder dies at a library burns with him or her, because every time an elder dies, some amount of stored knowledge disappears with him or her. However, that cannot be said about the woman whose life we have gathered here to celebrate, Professor Ama Ata Edu, exceptional woman, knowledgeable, teacher, famous poet, public servant, outstanding writer, who possessed excellent mastery of the English language. This was the glowing tribute paid by the President Akufo-Addo at the funeral of one of Africa's foremost writers, Professor Ama Ata Edu, in Accra.
The plane reverberated from the small town called Abiaze Chiakun in the central region of Ghana across the globe. As a flawless storyteller and a catalyst for women empowerment and emancipation, Professor Ama Ata Edu stood tall among her contemporaries because her writings contributed tremendously towards Africa's liberation struggle. Her daughter is Kina Nana Adwoa Kesiwa Lekmani.
My mother's navigation of the world was grouped into 2 primary categories: I'm writing or I'm not writing. She was most at peace when she was writing, and most unsettled, discontent when she wasn't writing. She could be celebrating a beloved birthday and thoroughly enjoying herself, or she maybe has gone to do revolution with some uncles of mine. But if one looked deep into her eyes, far past her loving embraces and famous hugs, somewhere deep inside her, a pool of dejection and despair had started to form. This pool would grow and threaten to challenge the Gulf of Guinea for sheer size, till one day, Kina, I wrote a poem. Let me read it to you. That she was a master of all the literary forms, the poem, the short story, the play, and the novel, is not only a testimony to her brilliance, but quite literally, it meant deliverance came sooner rather than later.
In his sermon, the presiding bishop of Methodist Church Ghana, Reverend Paul Boafo, said Professor Amata Edu stood for dignity, integrity, and served a generation faithfully, and called on Ghanaians to emulate her example.
Many of us are living for ourselves, selfishly, with greed. We think only of ourselves. Here was a woman who spoke for Africans. Here was a woman who stood for Africans. Here was a woman who spoke for the vulnerable, for the marginalized, for the downtrodden, for women, for the girl child, and those who had nobody behind them. Her words will live on, and I pray that there will be people who will stand up like her to speak for the vulnerable in society, especially women.
And to President Akufo-Addo, her publications, plays, and dramas, including The Dilemma of a Ghost, were compelling, must read and must watch.
The community of writers has lost one of its greatest members, one who will be extremely difficult to replace. She was my contemporary in the 1960s at Ghana's premier university, the University of Ghana, Lagos. Even though she was 4 years older than me, she was someone with whom I enjoyed friendly and productive relations. Through her work, she made a tremendous contribution to the development of our country and continent, and expressed so many of the feelings about our fate as Ghanaians, and indeed as Africans. Amata Edu carved a stunning career spanning 7 decades, where she's famed for, quote, taking African literature back to one of its primal origins, unquote. She exemplified the famous words of that great Kenyan writer, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, that the written words too can sing.
The academic giant took a bow off the world stage to join her sisters on May 31st, 2023, at the age of 81. Edward Nyaku, reporting for GBC News.
Sarah, did you ever encounter her works growing up?
Certainly, I've been enjoying SHS. No, I mean, I read literature, so I read The Dilemma of a Ghost. At the time, I'm sure we were clueless, but I get to understand it now. And today, we bid farewell to a hero. Indeed, we celebrate her works. It will live on. We take a break and we'll be right back.
Stay with us.
Here in Naswa, or the Benny or Domo, a pomodimo, and a cocodromo. It's an hour say you 2 and more about my man de dachi. Early childhood development, ye acquire your facility, your more fun and them. I will say your wow pay. Mehe so afame SP in Runa, Abramenyam, Namademi Huepi malaria. Mehe so ama me banu so kwa abosumi sia edikan. Eno kwa ni aduane ni nsu a ohia. Onya boso menso a mema me ba no aduane a ahoden wom. Ene dudu a ohia na aboa ma me ba no anyin pepepe. Mekoso a de me ba no kɔ ama ya bobɔ ne mpane na ya soso ne nom ama na nya baiba emu odre. Mekoso de odo atete me ba owo ni pedua mu sinto. Na mama no akwanya abofra bia hia. Mehe se me ba no be hye adesua sentem na ne daachi ewie ne peye. Mehe se me ba no fom a metene no odo kwan so. Menya no han na me kɔ ne ho ban abre nyina. Meta me bampu to achintem pa finin kola abre. Enti won so ye ne saa.
Piccadilly Choco Cookies, made with the finest Ghanaian cocoa. Now introducing Piccadilly Butter Cookies, a new addition to the Piccadilly family.
This advert is FDA approved.
I'm not blaming you for sleeping with another woman.
You threw me out of your house because I slept with your friend.
I'm not angry either, at least not anymore.
Did she put a knife to your throat and forced you to have sex with her?
I just feel pain.
Please don't ask me if I'm okay, because clearly I'm not.
I mean, my life was perfect.
Thinking of you makes me happy.
And then you came along and you just rode it all down to hell.
I'm getting very tired of your little zingers that I am the uncompromising one. You know what, let's just lay it out on the table and get it finished once and for all. You know one bad thing about being in love, Joe? Is that it makes you vulnerable. It opens up your chest, it opens up your heart, which in turn makes it easy for someone to get inside and mess it out.
Blurred Lines, coming soon to GTV.
Welcome back. Now let's talk business. Put in place appropriate risk management process and procedures to identify, mitigate and monitor inherent challenges in the savings and loan space. That's according to the head of Banking Supervision Act, the Bank of Ghana, Mr. Osei JC, addressing the annual general meeting of Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies in Accra. He pointed out that attracting and retaining skilled personnel and competent directors could go a long way in addressing some of the challenges facing the industry.
Many SNLs work with vulnerable clients such as small businesses and informal savers, which pose some risk which emanates mainly from the nature of operations and business models adopted by SNLs. To surmount these challenges, GASAC members need to put in place appropriate risk management processes and procedures to identify, mitigate and monitor all material risks inherent in the business of savings and loans. Mr. Chairman, indeed, ensuring regulatory compliance and maintaining sound risk management practices are crucial to the survival of any deposit-taking institution, including SNLs. In this regard, the bank recognizes the association's ongoing efforts to ensure compliance with regulatory standards and will urge all SNLs to aim at full compliance. Mr. Chairman, touching on engendering sound risk management practices, the Bank of Ghana has observed with concern some increases in non-performing loans, NPLs, and increases in funding costs, which may sooner than later threaten the safety and stability of the subsector. It is imperative that prompt corrective actions are put in place to curb the rising trends in NPLs and also to diversify funding sources to enhance profitability and foster customer confidence.
Risk management is not a one-way or a one-time event. It is a periodic thing that as a nation we will periodically be going through, and therefore what we need to do is to make sure that the programs we put in place, the systems we put in place, we are able to comply with those programs and we communicate to the public to fully understand the essence of these things. And so for us, our institutions are resolute to continue to serve the market and to making sure that depositors' funds are safe and secure.
And Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says Ghana's economy is beginning to show signs of stability after IMF approved a $3 billion credit facility for the country in May. While acknowledging the gradual recovery, the Finance Minister admits there is more work to be done.
Seen some amount of stability in how the economy is progressing. Growth the first quarter was 4.2%, at 1 percentage point higher than last year, which is good. Inflation seems to be declining. There's a lot of work to be done. We hope to get to the mid-20s by year end. CD has remained relatively stable. Treasury rates are down, and our net investment has also increased by almost the 600 million that we had. That is the GIR or the Bank of Ghana. So those are good signs for us to move forward. And as you know, when we signed up with the fund and the sense of stability was happening, in less than a week, the DFC in America also approved $300 million to support data centers in the region.
Now taking to Bank and Commodity Board for the day. And that was business brought to you by MTN. MTN is everywhere you go. Energy News is up next. Please stay.
Pascal's showing his boss the efficient new technology they've installed. She is pleased, but now she's asking, why is that still there? Pascal explains that the wells can store many, many messages. The boss is not so pleased anymore. If you haven't upgraded your contact center yet, it's time to get business done better with MTN Business.
Good evening. It's time for some happenings in the energy sector. My name is Dominic Noji. Parliament's minority is worried about attempts by government to hand over the operation of the Tema Oil Refinery to a private entity, Torrentco Asset Management. The caucus says Torrentco Asset Management has no track record in refinery crude, and the said contract will not offer value for money for the country. The ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, Mr. John Jinapor, spoke to the media in Parliament.
We have become aware of attempts by the Akufo-Addo government to lease the Tema Oil Refinery for a 6-year period to a company known as Torrentco Asset Management Company. Our checks has indicated that this company has no track record when it comes to oil refinery. It has no track record when it comes to the oil sector. And its balance sheet does suggest that it cannot provide the needed support for the Tema Oil Refinery. The Tema Oil Refinery is a strategic asset. It's the only state refinery capable of refining about 45,000 barrels of oil a day. If Tema Oil Refinery is well positioned and strategically positioned, it would result in millions, if not billions, of savings when it comes to import substitution. They have decided to lease the Tema Oil Refinery to Torrentco Asset Management. And if you read the details of the contract, they are supposed to refine just about 8 million barrels. That is woefully inadequate. We believe that that contract is inimical That contract will not inure to the benefit of the country. That contract will not benefit the ordinary Ghanaian, and that contract does not make value for money. We are therefore calling on the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led government to put a halt to this lease agreement.
Tullow Oil is finalizing the amended 10 Plan of Development. It follows fruitful engagement with the government of Ghana. In a statement in advance of the group's 2023 half-year results, Tullow announced that the planned 10 shutdown is underway. This is to improve gas handling and support reduced flaring.
Its first half 2023 group crude production averaged 53,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day. Net production within the period from Jubilee Field averaged 28,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day. That for 10 was 11,000 barrels per day, while net production from Gabon and Côte d'Ivoire averaged 14,000 barrels per day. The company said Jubilee Southeast is due on stream imminently. 3 producers and 1 water injector are expected on stream this year to help sustain gross Jubilee production over 100,000 barrels per day. Tullow and its partners plan to maintain this increased level of production at Jubilee over the next few years through an ongoing infill drilling program. Energy analyst and chief executive of Eureka Energy Solutions is Dr. Yusuf Suleimana.
Ghana assets has been Tullow's cash cow. If you look at the other asset that Tullow holds in other jurisdictions, Ghana has been their lead asset. And so it's only normal and crucial that they are deliberate in whatever investment that they are doing in Ghana. Over the years, a lot of things confronted Tullow in a way that has impeded their ability to ramp up their production. What comes to mind is the gas handling issues, if you quite remember. And in the upstream business, if you're unable to handle the gas, it impacts your ability to churn out more oil.
Dr. Yusuf Suleimana spoke about the planned shutdown of 10 to improve gas handling and support reduced flaring.
If Tullow is to go out to capital market, they will have to look at their carbon footprint, what plans they have in place. And reducing flaring as well in the upstream business is key, especially in this era where we have competing investment in the world of hydrocarbon and that of renewables.
Commercial terms for the long-term gas sales agreement are under discussion with the government of Ghana. The agreement will not only enhance energy security in Ghana, but also add another revenue stream for Tullow.
That's it for the energy segment. My name is Dominic Kronoji.
The show was a jar of bar and dim.
The groom is sick.
What?
Malaria.
Malaria? Lufat.
Injija woman malaria enka want to them. Lufat, malaria drop a coupe.
And now you may kiss.
Entrance Pharmaceuticals and Research Center. And I Lufat. Lufat, a 2 malaria sententem. FDA ajegede inkratwe atu.
Welcome to the health segment of the news brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco. Soon, patients requiring life-saving kidney transplants will no longer run around in circles in search of resources and a facility. On Wednesday in Accra, the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital disclosed plans to establish an ultra-modern kidney transplant center by the end of the year. This facility to be solely funded by First Kai Group would provide a cost-effective avenue to patients who hitherto must travel abroad for such services. The hospital has also successfully performed an organ harvest and transplant for 2 kidney failure patients who are said to be recovering very well. The burden of chronic kidney diseases and kidney failures in the country is estimated at 13%, and this usually occurs among persons in their prime ages of 20 to 50 years. Chronic kidney diseases often renders patients and their households poor due to the cost involved in dialysis and medication. Even though kidney transplant is not new to the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, it recorded another milestone on the 2nd and 3rd of this month when it harvested and transplanted kidneys into 2 male patients whose donors were females. The team of specialists was 95% locally constituted.
Those who donated their kidneys, they go home. They are healthy, they go home. Those who received the new kidneys will be going home on Monday. And they've not had any dialysis since the transplantation. So the kidneys are functioning well.
Kidney transplant is the ultimate treatment for chronic kidney diseases, and in the words of the head of the nephrology unit, Professor Vincent Boima, the procedure should now be regarded as a routine treatment offered by the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital.
Quality of life obviously is better. Imagine you coming to the hospital 3 times every week for dialysis. Imagine you continue paying for dialysis for the next 20 years. Compare that cost to paying for transplant now. To say transplant is the best treatment is even understating it. It's the ultimate treatment. And we are happy that this treatment has come to stay, to put smiles on the faces of these young people who are afflicted daily.
Each of the transplants was estimated at $21,000 and was fully covered by the First Sky Group. Since 2010, the conglomerate has enrolled 250 vulnerable patients on free dialysis, sponsored kidney transplants for patients who sought treatment abroad, and paid huge sums of monies to the hospital to support the nephrology unit in offering free transplants. These were born out of concern about the burden of the disease on Ghanaians.
For us at the First Sky Group, we just want to assure you that we will continue to sponsor the free dialysis, and we will continue to support anyone that is available and is ready with the donor for this transplant. The full cost of this transplant, we will continue to pay it.
The health segment was brought to you by Lufat from Tobinco.
On the foreign front, the bodies of at least 87 people allegedly killed by the Rapid Support Forces in Sudan have been found in a mass grave. The organization said Masali people were among those buried in a shadow grave just outside El Janina. Fierce fighting between the Rapid Support Forces and Sudan's armed forces has been continuing since April, but the Rapid Support Forces and their allied militias have denied any involvement in the recent fighting in West Darfur. The UN said at least 37 bodies were buried in the West Darfur region on 20th June and another 50 at the same site the next day. Among those buried were women and children. Meanwhile, the head of the UN mission in Sudan, Volker Perthes, says the Sudan conflict could turn into an ethnic and tribal civil war as warring sides step up efforts to recruit fighters. He said Sudan's warring sides must face accountability for the crimes committed in their conflict, which risk spiraling into a regional crisis. Up next is sports. Stand by.
Good evening, we're talking sports. I am Theophilus Sampa. Now, the Ghana Football Association has launched the National Football Philosophy. The policy document depicts Ghana's football DNA. The clash between Zone 1
National Football Philosophy book.
The National Football Philosophy document was birthed following research by the Technical Directorate and input from technocrats, national and club coaches, past and present, administrators, players, referees, supporters, coach instructors, coach educators, politicians, traditional authorities, women in football, sports media personalities, among others. The Ghana Football DNA will focus more on the coaching and playing philosophy in the country. The Ghana Football DNA identifies how we play, the current trends in football, the areas to strengthen, and how to get to where we want to be with our game. The president of the Ghana Football Association, GFA, Mr. Keto Kweku, is positive the newly launched policy will form the bedrock of the Ghanaian football and development. He calls on all stakeholders to remain patient as the Technical Directorate works around the clock to get our football back to where it belongs.
It's something that we have been looking for so long, and once we have it, it behoves on all our national team coaches to really study who we are, what we want, and how we want it, and then to implement same. Yes, the DNA will be used at all fronts at the national level, including at our academy level. Thank you.
The Executive Council was granted approval for its implementation.
Up next is news from the world of art and entertainment.
Back in time for a quick nostalgic moment on Journey to the West. Shifo, Baje, Tashon were the common names in Journey to the West. The Sikh team was magnetic. Series into Ghanaian homes. In the movie, Shifo, which means master, and his Buddhist disciples battle demons by using a book of nursery rhymes to appeal to their inherent goddess as they journey to India. Put smiles on the faces of both children and adults, and also ease the stress of parents going around looking for their children because they knew where they were, glued to their set. Ghanaian artists Black Sharif, Kamido, and Jackie are nominated for the 2023 Headies Awards in Nigeria. Here are tidbits from the world of art and entertainment.
Face cover like a Taliban, just a bad man moving bad.
These stars, Black Sherif, Kamido and Jackie, have been nominated in the category of Best West African Artist of the Year, alongside the therapist from Liberia in the 2023 Headies Awards. Black Sherif again is competing with music giants like Nigerian artists Burna Boy and Rema, Diamond Platinums from Tanzania, and Mawa Loud from Morocco in the African Artist of the Year category. The Headies Awards serve as a platform to honor and recognize outstanding artists, celebrating their contributions to the vibrant African music scene.
Them say them
source of income based on Spotify's streaming rate of $0.003 per stream. Wizkid, who is now officially the most streamed artist on Spotify with 5.5 billion streams, would earn him a staggering $24 million, followed by Burna Boy, CK, Rema, Mr. Easy, Thames and Davido. The 2023 Emmy nominations has The Last of Us, Succession and The White Lotus leading the TV awards, but there is significant doubt over whether the ceremony will go ahead as planned on 18th September due to an ongoing strike action in Hollywood. The Television Academy and the ceremony's broadcast network, Fox, are debating whether to push the ceremony back to November or even January.
That's all for the art segment.
Many thanks for your company. My name is Samuela Kwoti.
And I'm Sarah Furi.
Jonathan translated the news into sign language. Have a good evening.